Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. And before we start, I'd like to ask you that if you do enjoy my videos, please go ahead and click the like button or give me a comment. It helps out and you get to see my videos in your feed. Now let's get started with today's first story. This post is from the subreddit Relationships and it's by user throwthrow1456. Me, 28 female, with my best friend, 30 male, and her husband, 32 male. I'm caught in the middle. So, my best friend's husband, Ross, 30 male, is my supervisor. It's a small community and it's really hard not to work with someone you know or are friends with. I was a little worried at first, but he has always been 100% professional, as have I. And for years, it's been working beautifully. He is always respectful but stern at work and completely separates our friendship. He is like this with all of our coworkers, until recently. My best friend Nancy, 30 female, had their first baby about 6 months ago. Around that time, we also got a new employee in our department, Kate, mid-20s. Kate is gorgeous, bubbly, friendly, and the type that gets everyone's attention. After Nancy had the baby, she started becoming paranoid. She's also a gorgeous woman but is completely unhappy with the changes that happen to a woman's body once she has a kid. I mean, I've seen plenty of pregnant bodies and she has recovered beautifully, but she doesn't feel that way. She kept talking about how ugly she looked now and how Ross was going to sleep with other younger, more beautiful women. I kept reassuring her that she was still smoking hot and that Ross had made no indications before that he was unfaithful. Their baby has also been having a lot of trouble sleeping at night and the couple is sleep deprived. They're both complaining a lot about the other, but that's just how things go with the first baby, I think. From what I can tell, hearing this from both Nancy and Ross's side, Ross goes straight home, helps out with all the chores, all the baby stuff, and is a good father and husband. However, after about 2 months after the baby's birth, I kind of started to notice a change in Ross. Kate and Ross starting acting flirtatiously. It was noticeable because he doesn't act that way with anyone else, and we have plenty of young women in our department. Nothing outright inappropriate is said, but there's a lot of moments like this, when Kate responds to something with, "I'm all over it," and Ross makes a sound while smiling, as if he's imagining it. They kind of look at each other for a bit while smiling, and Kate giggles and goes, "Oh, stop." She lightly punches him on the arm and walks away. Also, anytime Kate talks about what she did with her boyfriend, Ross responds with, "Lucky guy." He has never done this with anyone else, and this, to me, is the most damning. Nancy visits with the baby once in a while to take Ross out to lunch, maybe once a month. Ross and Kate act like they barely know each other. They won't even glance at each other while he continues to pal around with everyone else in the office. Others in the office have started making little comments. When they walk in on Kate and Ross alone in a room, they go, "Whoa, am I interrupting?" Little things like that. I kind of hear little bits of rumors and snickering here and there. Mostly just typical office gossip and speculation. I spoke to Ross about this and told him that even if he doesn't intend to be flirtatious, it's coming off that way and will reflect poorly on him. He instantly denied it, said that no one thinks that way, kind of implied that I was seeing things that weren't there and just brushed it off. Whatever, I warned him. I don't want to get involved. I did my bit. Nancy has become increasingly paranoid, like beyond what is normal. If one little thing is off, she will instantly jump to Ross using his smoke breaks to have a quickie with 3 women. Like, what? Just because his shirt was untucked? This is a real belief she had. She was getting ready to pack her things and leave with the baby because his shirt was untucked when he got home. And she thought that was a sure sign of infidelity. Even though I have my suspicions, she thinks that he has turned into some kind of insane sex fiend because he has been a bit grumpy with her. I asked her if there were signs that he was unfaithful. Did she check his texts? Did she smell perfume on him? Did he leave the house without her knowing where he was? And each time she told me that there was nothing. He's either at work or at home. She keeps saying, "You'll keep an eye on him, right?" I tell her that I'm there to work and I can't constantly keep tabs on her husband, but I'll let her know if I see anything, which I kind of have, but not really. I think she might have postpartum depression, but she denies it. She just says she's a little tired. Initially, I was getting ready to tell her about how I felt about Ross and Kate, but now I'm not so sure. My current feeling of the situation is Ross is probably going through an office crush, possibly the beginning of an emotional affair, but has not gone beyond that. I feel like if I tell Kate now, she might instantly divorce him without there being any kind of proof. That's how broken their relationship is at this point. I really don't want to get involved, but I'm kind of stuck. If I don't tell her and she finds out about Kate, I'm sure she will think I was protecting Ross. Not only that, I feel like if I tell her, maybe they can nip this in the bud before it turns into a full-on affair. On the other hand, if I do tell her, she will probably jump to the worst possible conclusion and I will destroy their marriage. Reddit, what the hell do? I really want to stay out of this, but I feel like I'm at a point where I can't. Well, OP, here's the thing. You are in a unique, horrible position. Sure, you could ignore all of this and just wait for it to implode and then they get divorced, or maybe not, but you're also in a unique position to help them out. I agree with you. Maybe telling Nancy right now about what you've seen in the office is not the best idea because of her state of mind. She might take this information, run with it, and as you say, destroy the marriage already, like divorce and we're done. And it does sound like she needs help if she's this kind of paranoid. So here's what I would do if I was in your shoes. I would sit Ross down and really talk to him. Not just say, hey, you know what? People in the office are starting to talk. I would tell him, man, do you want your relationship to survive? Do you want your marriage to end or not? And then you tell him everything you've seen, like all of these flirting situations again, and tell him, look, man, you can try to dismiss me, but the thing is, they're happening and you know it. And then you tell him about Nancy. You ask him if he's seen her behavior lately or if he just thinks she's tired. You tell him that she is paranoid that he's cheating and that she's just one untucked shirt away from taking the baby and leaving him. Make very clear that you're not telling him this information so that he can be pissed at Nancy, but because he needs to be there for his wife. And maybe the best way to go would be for them to go to couples counseling, alongside Nancy needing some personal help for her PPD. Now, of course, their relationship is not your responsibility, but you are their friend. And what do you guys think about OP's situation? Would you just completely stay out of it, or would you try to help out? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Deleted says, you need to urge your friend to consider couples counseling. You do not need to be put in the middle of their marriage. You do not need to keep an eye on her husband. Their marriage is between the two of them, and she should have enough sense that if she has insecurities or problems, to sit down and talk to him about it. You need to remove yourself from this situation because it's super unprofessional. Tell your friend that you're no longer going to spy on her husband because he's your boss when you're at work. Urge her to deal with any issues with her husband. This is so childish in high school. And OP responds, I completely agree that it's super unprofessional or inappropriate and that I hate the position they're both putting me in. I will definitely strongly urge counseling for both of them. Thank you. Fudgy Boomba says, I don't know the situation, but is this suspicion completely out of character, the paranoia? I ask because postpartum depression is very common, but a much rarer condition is postpartum psychosis, which often manifests as extreme paranoia and progresses rapidly. In this case, it seems like her suspicions are justified. But if she's been constantly toxic at home, accusing him of cheating again and again, after a while, it might start to have an effect. Of course, you will be able to judge if this is a legit concern much better than I can. It's really rare. It might really be worth speaking to her husband though. Even if she doesn't have postpartum psychosis, she seems to need some form of help. It might well refocus him on his wife too. And OP responds, this whole thing is 100% bonkers because neither of them were like this at all before the baby, which is why I suspect it has something to do with postpartum hormones or something. Before the baby, they were both solid, responsible, grounded people, which is why I was so close with them. It is a bad situation where Nancy is super paranoid, but it's not completely unfounded. It also seems like they're not communicating at all as a couple right now because they're so preoccupied with the baby. I'm going to have to really urge Nancy to seek some help. Thank you. Casino Knight says, telling Nancy would be a disaster of epic proportions. She sounds like she's in such a fragile emotional state that this would doom the marriage. You've stated your case to Ross. His denial is a bit disconcerting, but I don't think this would turn into a full-blown affair. I think the two of them are just being flirty and enjoying the mutual attention. I think you've stated what you need to, and now you can just let the chips fall where they may. If Nancy brings this up or any marital problems, you can simply suggest marital counseling. And OP responds, thank you. I kind of wanted an outsider's view of whether I should be completely transparent with Nancy. I don't have any solid evidence or anything. It's all purely gut feeling and unusual observations. I'll just very strongly urge counseling for her and them as a couple without mentioning why. I think her concerns and paranoia are reason enough. Thank you. Alright, well, it seems like I'm the only one that was suggesting OP to really try to do something about this because most people were just saying don't do anything, let the chips fall where they may, or just push for counseling for them and therapy for your friend. But I still stand by what I said. If they put me in the middle of the situation, I would tell Ross to get his head out of his ass and I would tell Nancy to work on herself, and then I'd be done. Regardless, it's time for us to move on to the update to see what happened next, but before that, if you're enjoying this story so far, please go ahead and give a like. It really does help. Now, let's move on with that update. Hello Reddit. A few people have asked for updates, and things have kind of settled down enough for me to provide one. I finally had a serious sit your ass down conversation with Ross. His flirting has become very obvious, and I basically did the one thing I swore I wouldn't do, which was to spy on him. I wrote down all the things I noticed throughout the day, along with context and time, because I was sick of all this and pissed to no end. Not gonna lie, I was feeling a little vindictive because he kept gaslighting me and saying I was seeing stuff that wasn't there and misinterpreting other coworkers' comments about him and Kate. I told him that I needed to talk to him and we grabbed lunch. I told him point blank that he is flirting with Kate and there's no way for him to deny it. Nancy suspects that he's cheating and it's destroying her. Unexpectedly, I think my voice quivered and I got teary-eyed when I got to the "it's destroying her," because I think it suddenly dawned on me how true that statement was and how actually serious the situation was. I think the same realization dawned on Ross at that moment as well. Before Ross could say anything, I also just listed all the flirtatious things he and Kate did that day because I was just really tired of dancing around the subject. I don't want to hear him even try to deny it. It's a waste of time. Dude, we only have an hour for lunch. He was clearly defeated, admitted that he had a crush on Kate and just kind of, I don't know, emotionally crumpled. He told me that the baby changed everything about his relationship dynamic with Nancy. A lot of the typical things of Nancy pushing him away because she doesn't want to be affectionate, both of them being exhausted and cranky all the time, etc, etc. He also said that Kate reminded him of Nancy before she had the baby. What? I told him to never ever say that to Nancy, ever, even if he was coming clean with everything to her. I urged him to just sit down and have a talk with Nancy. He felt guilty about wanting Nancy's attention and affection when she was so busy with the baby, so he kind of bottled that up. I told him that it's okay for him to want those things. He shouldn't make Nancy feel bad about it, which I suspect he may have, but I'm not sure. But at least communicate with her about it. It's so strange because before the baby, Nancy and Ross were fantastic at communication and were just a freaking dynamo couple. I really felt like I was looking at two completely new people. Ross promised me that he'd clean up his act, and that was that. A couple of days later, I hung out with Nancy. I told her that while her current situation is difficult, her paranoia is beyond what one could consider normal and that she needed to see someone for her postpartum depression as well as a couples therapist. Again, I was just sick of dancing around everyone's feelings, so I just straight up told her that I couldn't do this anymore and that both she and Ross were destroying their marriage by pretending that all of this was normal. With her, the conversation was pretty short. I said, just effing talk to him for Pete's sake, and left. It was not one of my most tactful moments. Anyway, it's been a couple of weeks and things are going well. Ross's mom was visiting one weekend. This was already planned and unrelated to this whole ordeal, so he and Nancy asked her to watch the baby for a day and just spent a day talking. I'm not quite sure what went down, but apparently Ross told her about the crush, apologized profusely, and promised that he would only interact with Kate in a normal professional manner. He showed her all of his texts and described the office flirting. Shockingly, Kate basically reacted with, "That's it?" I guess she was imagining something way worse. Go figure. She told him not to feed that office crush, but was actually pretty cool about him having one. She said it's normal, and she's had office crushes in the past too. We all agreed that Ross was absolutely inappropriately feeding the crush, and that it was bordering on cheating. He'll have to grovel a while for that one to go away, but all in all, they seemed to have a really good day together and kind of regained the momentum they had before. Nancy has started seeing someone for her postpartum depression, and they are in couples counseling. Nancy still has bouts of weird depressive episodes, but I'm sure it'll get better with time. Ross has completely changed his attitude towards Kate, basically how he treats everyone else in the office, so I truly believe they're on the mend. I'm really happy to see them fix things, but I told them that I'm a bit burnt out with our friendship and need some time apart. They apologized and agreed that they'd keep their distance from me until I contacted them first. They're getting back to their old selves, so I'm sure we'll get over this bump and be good friends again. Kate, however, is not taking this whole thing well. She shouldn't be trying to cheat on her boyfriend, but Ross was also kind of the driving force behind this, so I'm a little bit sympathetic. She continued to try to flirt with Ross, but it clearly wasn't going anywhere. She then started openly flirting with another much older married director, I'm guessing in his 50s. Dude seems a bit confused, but isn't really shutting it down either. A couple of days ago, she approached me and asked if I thought Ross was being kind of weird towards her. Kate and I are not friends, and we barely interact, so this was definitely out of the norm. She knows that I'm friends with Ross though. I did not want to get involved again, so I basically gave her a very quizzical, surprised look and said, "Oh, I have no idea. I haven't noticed anything." I noped the hell out of there as quickly as I could. Sometimes you gotta be smart and play it dumb. Anyway, that's about it. Thank you so much for all of your advice. I think the general consensus was talk to Ross, but don't mention his flirting with Nancy, which seems to have worked out beautifully. You guys are great. Alright, well, I am going to call this one a happy update because Ross and Nancy are trying to get back on track. Kate, whatever, and OP is gonna get some time off from this friendship stress. But all in all, it's a really good outcome, I think. Anyways, thank you so much for sharing, OP, and take care. And now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user Haderian212. My new catchphrase is, not my job. So, I got turned down for a promotion recently. I was told that I get distracted too easily and don't focus on my job. I got told that I needed to stop trying to run to be a hero if I ever wanted to be considered for a promotion. I was told that I needed to work as directed. So, for context, I have been doing my boss's work for him. When things at work get backed up, I will jump in to get things back in order quickly. My job has fairly specific jobs where we aren't supposed to change positions and we are to work as directed. I have gone to help out those outside of my job repeatedly since being hired. My direct supervisor and manager love it when I go to help out. Well, that all stopped now. I even had the big boss try to tell me to help out in a section that was outside of my job description. My new catchphrase is, "Not my job." I had the bosses tell me that I was to do as instructed. I instead go to the union and get paid extra to work in a different section. This has been the new trend for the last couple of months. And today it all hit ahead. They have only one person in receiving for a 4-man crew. I work outbound. They cannot force me to work receiving based on the contract. Now, the bosses are working there and a grievance is being filed. The bosses have stopped working and receiving is completely backed up. I just had my manager come and begged me to help. I told him, not my job. I need to remain focused on my job and not try to be a hero. Work has ground to a halt, and the steward is demanding a triple rate for anyone moved to receive since management decided to work. Let's see how this goes. Well, OP, they gave you all the information you needed for a clear career path in order to get promoted. You're just following through. Good for you, OP. Thanks so much for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.